Hello. My name is Brother Sean, and I would like to share with you an experience I had only yesterday. Each day, I allow myself 1 hour where I can connect with my inner child and embrace nature. And it so happened I took my three little dogs, Clemmy, Winston, and Poppy, and we went for a lovely walk along the estuary, the Morecambe Bay estuary. And it was beautiful to see the tide coming in. And in the backdrop, we had the Cumbrian Mountains. And where we live here, it is the ancient Celtic kingdom of Reged, rooted in Celtic spirituality. So we are so blessed. So blessed. But as we were walking along the old railway track, in the distance I heard the distress calls of a sheep. And it caught my attention. And I found that I was walking much quicker with the aid of the stick, and even the dogs were wondering what was happening with this bleating call. And as we got near, we found that of the 300 sheep on the estuary grazing on the salt marshes, there was this mother sheep who was crying out in distress for one of her lambs. And it was so heart-wrenching because we looked everywhere and there was no sign of her little lamb. And we carried on walking, and we just quietly said a prayer that Gaia and the angels of the animal kingdom will find this distressed mother sheep her little lamb. But her distressed call was repetitive and it was heartrending. But then in the faint distance, you could just barely hear a reply. And it was her little lamb, quite a distance away. And the mother kept bleating her distress call, and there was an acknowledgement from her little lamb. And bearing in mind, along the marshes on the estuary, there were 300 sheep with their lambs grazing, so it was quite a vast army of sheep. And yet, this little lamb heard her mother calling. In the midst of all the sheep bleating, this little lamb heard its mother call. And as we were walking back, we found the lamb giving off her little bleat, "Where are you, Mummy?" And the mother sheep greeted her little lamb with such love and tenderness. Well, I'm afraid I had to sit down and reflect on that wonderful, wonderful story that I've shared with you. And immediately came to my mind the Good Shepherd, when Jesus said, "I know my sheep, and my own know me." And it became real. And I have read that story of the lost sheep for best part of, 50 years. But it didn't have a ring like it did yesterday. To hear the distress calls of the mother reminded me of Mother Mary crying to her children to return to her Son, of Gaia crying for the children of this earth plane to return to love, light and blessing. And as I sat quietly reflecting on the beauties of nature and how wonderful a teacher she is for me, because I made time to reflect. And in that silent moment, I was also made aware of the prodigal son. You remember the story in the parable of the loving father who had 2 sons. In previous videos recorded on my YouTube side, there are several referring to the prodigal son, so please watch them. But relating to the mother crying for her little lamb and the lamb responding, there's a similarity, isn't there, between the prodigal son hearing the cry in his heart of his loving father, and that is God our Father, Mother God, crying out for you and me to return to love. But the son knew better, and he went off and he squandered his inheritance, so the parable says. And the son realized the fields weren't as green where he was, that he was far better off back at home, where he was given his abundance and the assurance that he was loved as a son. But of course his elder brother was fuming. And I've seen the same analogy shared of a group of monastics who've lived the monastic life, who would whip themselves on the penitential days, kiss the community's feet on the obligatory penance days, and who lived a devout religious life. And they get wind that there's a new member joining them, a member who lived an unsavory life, who was, for example, the keeper of prostitutes, and he lived off their immoral earnings. And they got wind that such a candidate was joining their community. Can you imagine the tittle-tattle going on behind closed doors? I would imagine there was some disgust. I witnessed something similar myself in the monastery, where the bishop's nephew joined us as novices, and some of the professed members were not too sure. There was a hesitance, even a reticence, to get too involved in case it would go back to his uncle, the bishop of the diocese where the house was. But I got on really well with the bishop's nephew, and I found him to be a genuine friend. But some of the community were wary, as was the eldest brother of the prodigal son who returned. And that little sheep reminded me of myself. Oh, there's been many times in my life when I took a calculated risk. I thought I knew best, and I always ended up with egg on my face. And several years ago, I knew in my heart that my Father, Mother God was calling me back to the monastic life, but in my head, I fought tooth and nail. Tooth and nail. No way, Jose, was I coming back to live the life of a monk. Not on your life. But then something happened. I call it my epiphany moment, where I did hear the voice of Jesus, and he said, I never let you go. Like the mother sheep, she never let her little one go. Yes, he strayed off amongst the other sheep because curiosity got the better of it, as it did me, and maybe you. But that bleating cry from the mother sheep for her lamb paid off after several hours of bleating, and that distress call was heard. And God does not give up on us easily. And I believe the Good Shepherd, he who gave his life for his sheep, cries out to us each second of each minute of each hour of each day to return to love, to embrace selfless love, not religion, not a belief system that's rooted in judgment and don't do this and don't do that, No, to a life of simplicity, a life where there is an inner knowing and inner acceptance that you are loved for who you are, regardless of your lifestyle choice, that you are a child of God. And like that little lamb, when we know that and feel it, we come running to our mama. And that's how it is with the Good Shepherd. He laid down his life for you and me, and he won't give up on us. Will you? Thank you for watching.